Airports are already chaotic. Shoes off, laptops out, liquids in tiny bottles. And now you're sweating over whether your meds are about to get flagged like contraband. One wrong move and suddenly you're explaining your blood pressure pills to a TSA agent who just asked if your emotional support water bottle needs its own bin. Well, heads up, 2025 just changed the game. New medication rules are here, and if you don't know them, you could end up stuck at security with more questions than answers. The good news, once you know what's different, getting your meds through the checkpoint is way easier than you think. But you cannot afford to get this wrong because TSA is watching more closely than ever. First things first, the basics still apply. Yes, you're allowed to travel with prescription and over-the-counter medications in both your carry-on and checked luggage. That hasn't changed. What has changed in 2025 is how TSA wants you to pack, label, and present those medications, and they're being way more strict about it than they used to be. The days of tossing a handful of pills into a random Ziploc bag and hoping for the best? Yeah, those are over. Let's start with prescription med. The ones with your name on the label. TSA has always preferred that you keep them in their original containers, but now they're strongly recommending it. And strongly recommending is TSA speak for. We'll absolutely question you if you don't. That means no unlabeled bottles, no mixed pills, and definitely no loose meds floating around in your backpack like rogue Skittles. If you need to travel with them in a pill organizer, make sure you have the original prescription labels or a doctor's note with you. Agents are being trained to flag anything that doesn't clearly match your identity. And if they can't verify what a pill is, they're authorized to pull it out for testing, which means delays or even confiscation. One big change in 2025, TSA can now digitally verify prescriptions on the spot by connecting to pharmacy databases. If your name and medication don't match exactly, they'll know. So make sure your prescriptions are current and spelled exactly like your ID. Liquid medication rules also got an upgrade. You can still bring more than 3.4 ounces, but now you must declare it before screening. Take it out of your bag, tell the officer, and expect a quick swab or chemical check. This applies to prescriptions, inhalers, gels, creams, and doctor-prescribed supplements. Try to sneak it through, and you're likely headed for extra screening, or worse, losing it altogether. But the changes don't stop there. If you're traveling with medical devices, like insulin pumps, EpiPens, or auto-injectors, TSA now wants them packed separately from other items in your carry-on. You don't need to remove them from their cases, but they should be easy to access if an officer asks to inspect them. And yes, they can ask you to demonstrate how a device works, so don't panic if that happens. It's standard procedure now. Another new thing that's catching travelers off guard, temperature-sensitive medications. With more people traveling with biologics, injectables, and refrigerated meds, TSA now has updated guidelines for storing them during travel. You're allowed to bring gel packs, cold packs, or ice packs to keep your meds cool, even if they're partially melted, as long as you declare them at security. But they're now more likely to swab those packs for explosives, so expect an extra minute or two at the checkpoint. And here's something that's often overlooked but super important. International travel rules are not the same as TSA's domestic rules. Just because you cleared security in the US doesn't mean you're in the clear overseas. Many countries have stricter regulations about controlled substances, even common ones like ADHD medications or certain painkillers. If you're flying abroad, always check the medication laws of your destination country well in advance. Some require you to carry a copy of your prescription in English, and others may even require a doctor's letter or import permit. TSA won't stop you from boarding, but customs in another country might stop you from entering. One more key detail that's changing the game in 2025, random screenings for suspicious substances are becoming more common. That means TSA officers are now trained to pull aside powders, capsules, or liquids that look unusual, even if they're completely legal medications. If that happens, don't panic. As long as you have proper documentation, you'll be fine. But if you don't, you could face long delays or risk having your meds thrown out. And for anyone traveling with CBD or medical marijuana, this is the part where you need to pay extra attention. While TSA technically isn't looking for drugs, anything containing THC is still illegal under federal law, even if it's legal in your state. That means bringing cannabis products through a TSA checkpoint is risky. Some airports are starting to install amnesty boxes where you can voluntarily dispose of THC products before security, but if you're caught with them, you could be detained or referred to law enforcement. So to recap so far, original containers are your best friend, labeling is non-negotiable, and honesty at the checkpoint will save you time and headaches. But we're only halfway through the 2025 rulebook because the way TSA handles screenings, exceptions, and special cases has changed too, and that's where most people slip up. Here's where things get even more interesting and honestly, a little bit weird. TSA's 2025 approach to medication screening is now far more personalized than ever before. Instead of treating every traveler the same, agents are being trained to tailor their screening approach based on what you're carrying, how you're carrying it, and even how you behave at the checkpoint. That means the more prepared and organized you are, the smoother this whole process will go. If you show up with loose pills and mystery liquids in an old grocery bag, congratulations! You've just earned yourself a bonus round of secondary screening. But if you have everything neatly labeled, separated, and ready to declare, you'll breeze through faster than people trying to untangle their laptop charger. One of the biggest new changes? TSA officers now have the authority to request additional verification if they suspect a controlled substance is being transported, even if it's legally prescribed. That means if you're traveling with medications like strong painkillers, ADHD meds, or anti-anxiety prescriptions, they might ask a few more questions or request documentation beyond just the label. It's not about accusing you of anything, it's about tightening security around drugs that have a high potential for misuse. If you're carrying anything like that, it's smart to keep a copy of your prescription printout or a note from your doctor in your carry-on. It's not mandatory, but it could save you from a frustrating conversation at the checkpoint. There's also a new focus on quantity. In 2025, TSA is paying more attention to how much medication you're bringing with you, especially for international travel or long-haul flights. While there's no strict limit on how many pills you can carry, bringing an unusually large supply could trigger questions. If you're going on a 2-week vacation but have 6 months worth of medication in your bag, expect an officer to ask why. The solution? Pack only what you need for the trip and leave the rest at home, or ship it separately if necessary. Now, let's talk about something a lot of people forget about: powdered medications and supplements. TSA's stance on these has changed too. Anything over 12 ounces has to be removed from your bag and placed in a separate bin for screening. If it's a prescription powder, keep documentation handy. Otherwise, they might test it on the spot, and don't be surprised if they ask about it. This rule isn't about inconvenience. It's because powdered substances can sometimes hide prohibited materials, and officers need to be able to verify what they are. Another subtle but important update involves international connections. If you're flying from the US to another country with a layover somewhere else, remember that TSA rules stop applying the moment you land in a different jurisdiction. Your meds might pass through US security without a problem, but get flagged in a transit country with stricter rules. This is especially true in places like Japan, Singapore, or the UAE, where certain medication, including some common US prescriptions, are completely banned. If you're connecting internationally, always double-check every country's regulations along your route, not just your final destination. And here's a piece of advice that seasoned travelers swear by: never ever pack all your medication in checked luggage. Bags get lost, flights get delayed, luggage sometimes goes on vacation without you. TSA and airlines both recommend that any medication you cannot go without, including daily prescriptions, emergency inhalers, or EpiPens, should stay in your carry-on. No exceptions. Think of it as your personal survival kit. Even if your checked bag vanishes into baggage claim purgatory, you'll still have what you need to stay healthy and safe. If you're traveling with kids or elderly family members who rely on medications, 2025's rules are actually a little more traveler-friendly. TSA officers are now encouraged to offer additional assistance, like helping you organize bins or slowing down the screening process if you're traveling with medical equipment or complex medication setups. The key is to let them know in advance. A quick, "Hey, I'm traveling with a diabetic kit and refrigerated meds," goes a long way. Most officers are more than willing to help if they know what they're dealing with. Another new feature rolling out in 2025 is the Medical Notification Card. This is an optional TSA card you can fill out and present during screening to discreetly explain medical conditions or medications without having to discuss them out loud. It's especially helpful for travelers with conditions they'd rather not talk about in a crowded line. And while it's not required, it can make the whole process a lot less awkward and a lot more efficient. And finally, let's address one of the most common traveler questions. At the end of the day, the 2025 medication rules aren't about making your life harder. They're about making travel safer, smoother, and more consistent. Once you know what to expect, navigating security with your meds becomes a non-issue. Keep everything clearly labeled. Declare anything liquid, powdery, or over 3.4 ounces. Bring documentation for anything prescription or controlled. And when in doubt, ask a TSA officer before you get to the scanner. They'd rather answer a question early than spend 20 minutes testing a bottle of something you could have easily explained. So next time you're packing for a trip, don't leave medication prep for the last minute. Double check your prescriptions. Print out your doctor's notes if you need them. Pack smart, label clearly, and walk into that security line like a pro. Because the only thing worse than airport coffee is missing your flight because TSA's still testing your allergy meds. And hey, now that you're armed with the 2025 updates, you're officially ahead of 90% of travelers. So before you go, let me know in the comments, have you ever had a medication pulled at security? And if you found this breakdown helpful, hit that like button, share it with your travel buddies, and get ready for a stress-free boarding experience on your next trip. Safe travels, it's a theory, and may your pill bottles always make it past the scanner.